Yes, welcome back into Temple and Heilprin. We are live from Monk's Bar and Grill in Sun Prairie. Come by, check it out. A lot of TVs to watch, a lot of football. As I mentioned in the first segment, great deals when the Badgers and Packers are playing. They've got $15 domestic buckets of beer, and you can also get Jell-O shots every time the Badgers or Packers score a touchdown. Plenty of touchdowns scored for the Packers last weekend. Probably could have gotten nice and liquored up with the Packers game. Badgers, not as much. A little bit too much settling for field goals. If they gave out shots for field goals, they'd be in really good spot. But really enjoy being out here at Monk's. We're going to be here every Thursday from 6 to 7 throughout the entire season. All right, let's get into this Braelon Allen situation, which we probably would have led with if not for Keontez Lewis deciding that he wanted to transfer. But Braelon Allen, we talked a little bit about on the camp on Tuesday and whether the carries, how many carries is needed and how upset he was. And I know you thought that he was in a good frame of mind, right? Like, you thought he was good. I know that the quote that is kind of blowing up today here from the Wisconsin State Journal story that Colton Bartholomew wrote, and I wanted to give credit for him because he has this quote, and it kind of makes it seem like he's a little bit more upset than maybe I initially anticipated. And this is the quote that I view myself as one of the top players, not just on this team, but in the country. And I think when we're in a game like that comes down to the wire. I want the ball in my hands. That was really just the main message behind it. There's nothing against the play calling or anything like that. It's just expressing that I want to be heavily involved in every game. And this is the quote. That was him, what he told Luke Fickell. And it kind of felt like Luke Fickell maybe answered it a little bit when he spoke with us on Monday and talking about taking advantage of the opportunities that you do get. Mm-hmm. And so I was a little surprised to see that quote from Braelon, because he was not effective in the amount of snaps that he got, the number of carries that he got. He got 7 carries, he had 20 yards, he had 6 catches for 12 yards. That's not effective whatsoever. And to think that, in a close game like that, you should be giving him more touches, I don't know that that's the answer. However, I will say this. I thought at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they did have a little success to run the ball, or have some success running the ball early in the fourth quarter, which is probably where he got most of his yards. And maybe that's what he's thinking.
I can understand his perspective when you're the number one running back for a year and a half, and there are games where you're getting 20-plus carries, 100-plus yards, leading the team in touchdowns. You want to be that guy, and you feel like you've earned the right to be that guy. The difference here is that, like you said, he was not effective in the touches. I mean, he and Ches, neither one of them was particularly effective. Ches did have that short touchdown run, but they combined for 90 yards rushing a week after they'd combined for 298 yards rushing. So it's a real give and take here, but he certainly has a right, based on his position, to be able to say something like that. Not very many guys can say that. He's got the body of work. On the other hand, the coaching staff has a right to say, hey, you weren't all that effective. Yeah, you had 7 carries. It's the fewest you've had since you became a regular member of this rotation. It's the second fewest yards you've had in a game rushing the ball. And we need more, and we've got other weapons, and that's how we feel.
Do you like it
that Braelon would say that? Certainly. Why not? I don't even think this is all that, controversial. Sometimes in the middle of the season things can be boring, and you need a little juice here, but he is one of the best players on the team and potentially in the country. I think he's got to continue to earn that, but I like a guy who's got confidence and wants the ball. Now, there's a difference between saying that and then having poor body language or negative demeanor when you go into a game and it impacting the team. That's not what Braelon is doing here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that I'm okay with it to a point. I think it's also, you have to be a little self-aware as well, that in the carries that you got, you were not successful. And you can't just keep on going back to that, when in the third quarter, how much success did they have throwing the ball? They threw it all over the place. There was a stretch there where Tanner Mordecai hit all 10 of his throws. So when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I understand where Braelon's coming from. He wants the ball because he is their, I don't want to say their best player, but thought of as their best player. So why not give him the ball more? But then I look at the actual situation of what happened on Saturday night, and you have to go with what's working. And what was working was Tanner Mordecai throwing the ball and slinging it around. That's what got them back in the game in the third quarter. So I I can see where he's coming from, but I think situationally. That's
a word.
Good job, Zach. You have to be aware of this. You have to be aware of it. So, either way, I don't think that he'll only get 7 carries on Saturday. I feel comfortable saying that. Wanted to get into a few more things here. Let's go with this. All right, my best M&M. Will the real Badgers please stand up? We know that Wisconsin's gotten off to bad starts these last 2 games. They have not played well in the first half for most of them. Haven't been overly well in the fourth quarter either. But in the third quarter, they've been fantastic. Been really, really good in the third quarter. Which Badgers are the real Badgers, Jesse? And I don't want you to say, I'm not going to let you, it's right in the middle. It's going to be right in the middle. You're going to.
What does it sound like?
No, but I feel like that's where you're coming from. You're about to go that way. So where do they stand in your mind? Are they more like the third quarter Badgers? Or are they more like the Badgers that we've seen at other times in the game?
I'm inclined to lean toward the third quarter Badgers. We've seen a great running attack in week 1 and a great passing attack in week 2, and multiple guys have talked about the fact that you've got to be able to marry the two. But they have it in them, and I think I fall back on the demeanor and the positivity that these players had during the week, because Tanner Mordecai was so confident, and I thought this was noteworthy, and this is for a story that's running Friday on The Athletic, but I asked multiple guys, and Luke Fickell as well, how close do you feel like this offense is to getting to the level where everybody thinks it should be, including you guys, and Tanner said, I think we're right there. It's like we can feel it, we can smell it. So it just goes back to the preparation, and he said he felt like if they had a great week of practice this week that it would show up potentially in this game against Georgia Southern. My response is kind of like, well, it better. But I do think they've got a lot of confidence in what this offense can be, and I'm not saying it's going to look like the third quarter all season. It's absolutely not, given how tough the Big Ten is, but this offense has more to give, and I do believe that they will get there because, again, they're still just 2 games into this process, and while people may not want to hear that, we are seeing that you can't just implement something and right away it's going to look like the greatest version of an air raid you've seen.
Long term, more confident in the running game, more confident in the passing game. And by long term, I mean this season.
Yeah. Well, I want to go with the passing game. I don't think I would have said that after week 1, but I do feel like Mordecai's got some special skills here, and each game, it's like if there was one throw, and again, if Skylar Bell catches that pass, it's a 60-yard touchdown. It's a perfect pass. Tanner Mordecai puts that ball in front of Bryson Green. We've got a different game now. Those are ifs, and every team has ifs. But I just think he's got some special talent, and even the touchdown pass that he threw to Skylar in week 2 against Washington State, he somehow gets away from Ron Stone Jr., who's already just dominated that game with 2 sacks and forced fumbles. And not only does he get away, but he drops a dime to Skylar Bell. And I asked Chimere Dike the question about how good can this offense be? And he said, did you see that play with Skylar Bell? I was like, yeah. He said, it was pretty damn good. And he was just talking about how Tanner has this special ability to do some of those things. And so I feel more confident in the passing offense. That's not to say I don't think the run game can be very effective. I just think you've got these wide receivers, and Tanner, you got to be able to do something with that group.
When's the last time anybody has said that
Never.
about a Wisconsin offense?
Never.
No, you know what? Maybe 2015.
2015. They didn't have any running backs
left. They could not run the ball whatsoever.
Joel Stave was slinging it 50 times in consecutive games.
The Joel Stave era, which brings me to my final point. And again, I know I didn't throw this in the rundown, so you won't have anything on it, but I wanted to bring it up because I thought about it today. It came up 10 years to the day.
Wow.
The Arizona State game. 2013, Wisconsin loses. I think it was 32-30. I think it was the final score. Wisconsin never got an opportunity to kick the field goal that would have won the game because Arizona State jumped on the ball after Joel Stave tried to take a knee. I remember them practicing this stuff. I remember because we used to get in for the last 10 minutes of practice or something like that, and we would get to see, and they were practicing it, and they brought it out. I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna. I don't understand that, but okay. But they practiced it, and it did not work. And Pac-12 officials just let Arizona State lay on the ball, and the clock ran out. And the picture of Gary Anderson going like this, there was a lot to it. But it's one of the worst regular season losses, I think, for Wisconsin. And I asked people, and it's not the best thing to discuss, but people remember these things,
yes,
and I think there's a lot of games. Is that one? I know you weren't there, but is that one of those games that sticks out for you, or what game sticks out for you in your time in 10 years? Since 2011.
Well, of course that one sticks out, and I think it's because most people look at it and say we was robbed, and really it was just such a poor officiating call. His knee was down. We all know that. They should have gotten an opportunity. That's not what ended up happening, and I think that's the hardest thing in sports when you're a fan or obviously a part of it is like. You did what you were supposed to do, and the officials had such a blunder that you'll be talking about it for years and years to come. In terms of, they've had a lot of regular season losses in the last 10 years. I go back to the 2019 game against Illinois because it was so inexplicable.
Yep.
I remember we could go onto the field. I went onto the field. There were 8+ minutes left in the game, and I was standing on Wisconsin's sideline, and the Badgers had a 2-possession lead, and all of a sudden Jonathan Taylor fumbles, and it totally fell apart in a game that they absolutely should not have lost. That's the only reason Lovie Smith ended up with a contract extension, I think. Didn't last very long.
No.
I know Illinois ended up, I think, going to a bowl game, but wouldn't have happened without that one. That was probably the most inexplicable, but obviously the next week they got housed by Ohio State, and that team ended up going to the Rose Bowl and playing in the Big Ten championship game anyway.
Yeah.
So you can't say it necessarily impacted.
2 games in 2015. The Iowa game, where Joel Stabby got stepped on by, who was it?
Micah
Kapoy. And he still tries to hand the ball off to Taiwan Deal, and they fumble, and they lose 10-6. And then the game, the regular season finale against Northwestern, where Jazz Peavy caught it, and then he didn't catch it. They had 3 touchdowns wiped off the board. You had the Alex Erickson punt return, you had the Troy Fumagalli catch for a touchdown that was wiped off, and then put the ball at the 1, and then obviously that one was wiped off. Jazz caught it. He caught it. It is what it is.
He did.
But yeah.
We should also mention, this maybe goes under the radar a little bit more, but in terms of ramifications for a season, losing the 2021 regular season finale at Minnesota, 23-13.
That one stands out.
Yes.
That one stands out. All right, we're going to step aside, take a break, come back on the other side, talk a little Georgia Southern.
Why not?
Man, we'll talk a little Georgia Southern. We're live from Moncks in Sun Prairie. You're listening to Temple and Heilprin.